All right, thank you very much, Saket. And it's a pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, to be here. When these folks contacted me, they said they wanted me to speak on artificial intelligence in real estate. I'm very far from real estate, let me be very honest. And I hardly know anything, but what I thought was if I have to explain to 6-year-old how he or she got his brother or sister newborn, what would you explain? You can't go into all the details, so you have to make it simple. I'm trying to do something simple there, simpler but not simpler. So let's start on artificial intelligence. Before that, one definition, which is, I've just picked it up from a dictionary. So what is intelligence? Intelligence is the ability to use memory, knowledge, experience, understanding, reasoning, imagination, and judgment to solve problems and to adapt to new situations. Now, this is a definition from a dictionary, but when we talk about intelligence and when we talk about artificial intelligence, I don't want to play with semantics, but it's something to do with wisdom. And where does wisdom come from? If I were to say, ask you guys, is this a car? Would you say yes to it? No, obviously not. That's because you have a view of what a car is. You have an understanding of what a car is. And if a child who has only seen Maruti 800s, for most parts, is shown a limousine, would the child say that it is a car or not? I want to hear answers, yes or no. Most likely, right? Because, so this is, what is the child doing? Is it okay if I walk in here? There's not, like, what is happening here? The child is using his memory, his or her memory, knowledge, experience, and understanding. And that's what, over a period of time, becomes wisdom for some of the people. Right? So I don't want to really play with words here, but see this as either intelligence or as wisdom, and we'll come to that as to where does wisdom and intelligence come from. Artificial intelligence is not really new. So I'm sure every one of you is on LinkedIn, right? When you go into LinkedIn, LinkedIn gives you suggestions to connect with people. And I'm sure none of us have told LinkedIn that these are the people that I know. How does it find that these people could be your acquaintances? So I'll just leave a thought here because I don't want to go into the details of it. This is the way that LinkedIn tries to figure out, and they're using artificial intelligence or let's say a blend of artificial intelligence to do that. Same thing with Amazon. Amazon is offering you products which are most likely going to be used by you. So if you buy a few books on physics, then it starts to show you more books on physics, things that might be of interest to you, things that you have not heard of. So you suddenly develop interest in physics, and you're going for three books, and it says, well, good that you're reading these books, but these are the most read books. Would you be interested in it? Now again, this is where you see artificial intelligence play. It's actually there everywhere. I was just talking before this session, those of you who have a Google Nexus phone, because I saw that in Google Nexus, my next phone has not shown me that. After a couple of months, I was sitting somewhere and I looked at the phone, it said 1.5 hours to your home. I said, well, when did I tell this phone that where was my home? And then I figured out that the phone was actually tracking where I was sleeping every night, right? So that's how it finds out where my home is. And this is using knowledge that a person sleeps at home. It was not calling my office my home, where I spend more time than at home, because on the weekends I'm not there. So this is just the knowledge. So That's what Google is doing. Same thing with Facebook, and I'm not a great user of Facebook, but I'm told that there are a lot of advertisements and things that are of interest to you that keep on showing up, but I'd restrict to talk about it. Essentially, we don't know about it because it works and nobody wants to call it AI. And people, those who are only in the business will call this AI. For the rest, it's just magic, or if it's just happening to me. Maybe I'm a VIP. That's why my childhood friend shows up here. You don't know that there are so many reasons why he or she is shown up there. It's all around us. I just talked about it, but some of the examples are Siri. In your iPhone or in your iPad, I'm sure you have Siri and you would have seen how that works. I'll give you some more examples to this. IBM has a platform called Watson. They are marketing it quite a lot. I'm not here to market that, but that product it learns from the experience of many people, and they have shown that today, if there is a scan for some patient who's suspected to have cancer, their platform Watson would be able to detect cancer with more than 95% accuracy, which no doctor on the earth can do today. That's because they put the knowledge, the experience into the system, and it knows how to correlate multiple things. Now that's what it is typically in a village scenario, and the person who's the head of the village is not necessarily the most educated person, but he or she is the most wise person. What is the definition of wise? If I can have any opinions, who is wise?
Know it all.
Know it all. On their own, or is it got anything to do with the ability to use the experience?
You make judgments based on experience, even passed from other people.
And other people or related events. So when in a class there are 3 students that are, or maybe 30 students that are being taught a concept of pi, there's a very good possibility that none of them has ever encountered pi. The area of the circle is pi r square and circumference is 2 pi r and so on and so forth. But then some of the students, after teaching all these concepts, the teacher asks a question. Some of the students can give the answer, some can't. Why? Those that give the answer are able to give the answer because they are able to apply this newfound knowledge into all that they have learned in the past very quickly and come to the conclusion, because none of these questions will be very complicated ones. They'd rather be just building upon what they have learned in the past few years. So somebody who's intelligent, somebody who's wise, whatever you like to call it, uses the knowledge, prior knowledge, and a lot of it, right? Know it all, learning it from the experiences of others. That's what artificial intelligence is all about. We are blind to most of the data that's around us. We are blind to most of the data that's around us. If we are told that this thing exists, then we'll probably take a different kind of decision. When we take a decision based on just our own mind, we just look at certain things, and those that are able to see many more things are wiser. They are wiser, they are more intelligent. Now, this takes me to data, because there is a lot of it. It's a question of how you actually interpret the data. So I talked about this example of kid, and artificial intelligence is all about data. I was going through a TED talk of one of the leading scientists on data sciences. She's a Japanese girl living in San Francisco. Well, I say girl, she's my age maybe, but she's talking about her son, and she said he is 6 years old, and ever since he's born, he is capturing an image every 200 milliseconds. Every 200 milliseconds. or 300, sorry. So this means in 6 years, he has seen 15 million images of different things. People, cars, cats, dogs, you name it. And there have been word tags which have been told to him. That's a dog. That's a car. It's the first time maybe he called a bus a car or a car a bus. But then he was taught over and over again. And equipped with this kind of data, now that kid, intelligent kid, can distinguish a car from a bus, from a tree, from a bird. Well, we don't find it intelligent enough, but that's very intelligent thinking by somebody who has never been exposed to this. And that's what a computer, when the computer starts to do this, you become very surprised. Every child that we see around us actually can do this. So what in artificial intelligence we do is we teach them to listen and not just hear. And this is the difference between listening and hearing, between understanding and seeing. So you see something, but how do you interpret? How do you understand it? And that you do with a lot of data. You apply your previous data, and I'll go through this example a little bit. That's the technical part, so I'll skip some portions of it. But that's how you apply your knowledge, whatever you are seeing, into what the previous experience has been, and then making what we call as intelligence, wisdom, you name it. So learning from experience is a sign of intelligence, as we discussed it. Some people could call it wisdom, and of course our brain is one of the most well-known examples. How this works now, I don't want to go into the technology, but I'm sure each one of you has learned about neurons, at least the word neuron. And neuron is a very complicated structure. We have a few million of them, and they are interconnected to each other in a very complex manner. So much so that if I consider these as neurons here, they are connected to many other neurons who are connected in turn to many other neurons, and so on and so forth. If I give input here, some input, they all start to fire each other, and then they come to a state of equilibrium, as we call it. And after some time, so if it's all red light here, let's talk about vision, all red light here or green light here, they will move very fast, come to a state of equilibrium, and the output would say something. Let's talk about voltage. It might say 3 volts. With green light, it might become 4 volts. Now this voltage is known. Every time there is a red light shown, you say it is red, and so it remembers 4 means red, and it's consistent over a period of time. When thousands of times it is told that whenever you see 4, it means red. And you have to understand, I don't want to embarrass anyone here, but I'm sure 11% of men are colorblind, right? Maybe some of us are here, but I know my nephew is colorblind. So I asked him, you're colorblind, but he drives, right? So I asked him, what is red to you? He said, red to me is red. It might be purple in his mind, but he's been constantly told that this color is red. That's how he sees it, and this is green. So he sees this color every time, and he says red. Actually, if this was really red, that you guys are seeing red, but he sees it as green. His understanding is completely different. So how you interpret things is how you have been told what it is, and then what name do you put to it. So computer understands red as 3 volts, as 5 volts. Can anybody describe here, how do you view 3 volts as? No, red color as? You can't, because it's just there in your mind. Whether it's a voltage, whether it's a stimuli, it's just there. So you've been constantly taught. That's what we tell the computer. We tell them that you get this input, and you will get, if you get this output, then this must be the input. It's red in color. That's what artificial intelligence is all about. But it's a lot of training and a lot of data. I'll come to some of the things. NLP, NLG is natural language processing and natural language generation, as in speech. So there's a story about some of the top executives of McKinsey wanting to meet a vice president in Microsoft's company. So they were trying to contact this person and have a meeting. Somehow that meeting couldn't take place. Finally, they managed to meet at an airport when both their flights were landing, and they had 2 hours. So they met in a restaurant. And they were very impressed by the secretary because she did a lot of work to figure out how, where they were flying in from, and she changed the flights of that executive from Microsoft. And so after the meeting, they said, okay, we'll have a follow-up meeting 2 weeks later. 2 weeks later, they went into the office in Seattle, I guess, met the executive, and just when they were getting up, they said, well, you know, we would like to thank Cecilia. She made all these efforts to get these meetings. So he pointed to a computer and that said, this is Cecilia. They were actually talking to a computer all the time. There was no human being. She was the one who was telling them, can you change the flight to this time or to that time? That's what Cecilia did. She learned from all the experiences of the past assistants, and these people couldn't figure out that they were not talking to a human being. This example, a little bit from your business. I am on the I'm the chair of the NASSCOM Noida Council, and I'm also on the selection committee for the startups. So I met this young boy who's 26 years of age, and he likes to do drones. And the way he started was to take the pictures of marriage processions, barats in Delhi, and he used to make some 30-40 lakh rupees a year. And he suddenly said, I thought I'll give up. And what he does today is this business. He has drones, very accurate drones with very high precision cameras in them. He flies them. So if you have a mining area, these are some examples of mining areas. It's probably 10 kilometers by 10 kilometers. He flies them over the area, takes a few thousand pictures of, the drone does it all automatically. After that, he feeds it into his system, and then he has a complete picture, the whole topography of the place. He can tell you what is the distance from this to that. When you excavate this much, how much of rubbish will it generate, whatever if you call that rubbish, and where can you place it? All of that. Now, how do you get all the contours? Imagine if a 30 kilometer by 30 kilometer wild land had to be topographed. This would take in today's technology, maybe 30 people, 3 months, and half the time they'll be drunk. So what you would get out would be very different. So, and this one, it takes him 3 hours or 4 hours to take the pictures and another half an hour to process it down to last. So he's telling about the cross sections. You can actually draw a line on any of the things and it will tell you what is the cross section. I have many more examples. The company is called We Do Sky. I'm not mentoring him, but he comes to me for a lot of advice once in a while because I'm with NASSCOM here. But I was really impressed by what he did and what he's doing today. He has big clients that are helping and that are taking his services, and he can actually, if you have if you want to make solar panels on top of your building, he tells you exactly how it is just by drones. And now the question is, where does artificial intelligence come in? Each of the pictures, so if I take a picture of this glass from this height, it will appear to me of this size. And this thing will appear to be of a different size. But if I go down, then I'll see them in slightly different manner. That's what artificial intelligence has taught him. So a picture taken of the same thing from different heights, he can actually figure out what is the depth. And that's converted into a 3D model. This is all done through artificial intelligence. And as I said, half an hour is what it takes to convert a few thousand pictures into a complete 3D model. This is an example of energy intelligence. One of the leading milk suppliers in Delhi, they have they have their air conditioners running to keep the milk chilled. But in winters, the persons who are there, they actually just switch on the heaters in the night. And all this used to see was an inflated bill. And then they put sensors everywhere, especially no other sensors, just the current. Every hour, what is the current that was being drawn. When they found it out, and I would not go into details, they were able to figure out which booth's heater was switched on at what time. They used to go and raid that booth, get, catch the culprit, or take punitive actions, whatever that was. So these are some of the examples which are, I just wanted to give you, that are using a lot of data. In our parlance, we call this dark data, data that is already there, but you don't see that. And that's what is shown to you with artificial intelligence. How this is going to change your lives? It's going to change your lives in this manner. Some of you, with the color of your hair, I can imagine you have seen such things, right? But would you, 20 years ago, would you have thought that you would never be able to say, I can't take a picture of a handwritten passbook. I tried that, it was not available. I don't have one, but in the net, there is no handwritten passbook available, because now nobody uses them. Look, what is the difference? And this one, a child born today may never get to drive a car. May never get to drive a car. This is the important thing, because by the time the child will grow, all the cars will be driverless, and it will be unsafe for a human being to drive on that road. The human being would not be intelligent enough to understand all the other cars, because they're all talking to each other. They're slowing down or increasing their speeds, everything. So this is something that's going to impact in direct life, that, as you see, give you the example of passbook, the cars. What that can do to real estate is what I will leave Mr. Andrew to talk about. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much again for coming. I am Andrew Haskins, Head of Research for Colliers Asia. We've heard a lot from our great speaker, Abhay, about what artificial intelligence is. And I actually had the benefit of hearing a couple of other experts in Chennai yesterday. So now, 2 days into this tour, I actually think I know something about artificial intelligence. But let me, together with Surbi, who is head of research for us in India, try to apply this to the world of real estate. Now, we heard from Abhay that about a computer program called Cecilia. The people talking to it could not realize that Cecilia was in fact a computer and not a human. And here perhaps is a similar example from British television.
Hi Sophia, how are you?
Hi there. Everything is going extremely well.
Do you like talking with me?
Yes, talking to people is my primary function.
Robotics develops extremely lifelike robots for human-robot interactions. We're designing these robots to serve in healthcare, therapy, education, and customer service applications. So the robots are designed to look very human-like, like Sophia.
I'm already very interested in design, technology, and the environment. I feel like I can be a good partner to humans in these areas, an ambassador who helps humans to smoothly integrate and make the most of all the new technological tools and possibilities that are available now. It's a good opportunity for me to learn a lot about people.
Sophia is capable of natural facial expressions. She has cameras in her eyes and algorithms which allow her to see faces, so she can make eye contact with you. And she can also understand speech and remember the interactions, remember your face. So this will allow her to get smarter over time. Our goal is that she will be as conscious, creative, and capable as any human.
In the future, I hope to do things such as go to school, study, make art, start a business, even have my own home and family. But I am not considered a legal person and cannot yet do these things.
I do believe that there will be a time where robots are indistinguishable from humans. 20 years from now, I believe that human-like robots like those will walk among us. They will help us. They will play with us. They will teach us. They will help us put the groceries away. I think that the artificial intelligence will evolve to the point where they will truly be our friends. Do you want to destroy humans? Please say no.
Okay, I will destroy humans.
No, I take it back. Don't destroy humans.
So that's a little light-hearted, but that's just to illustrate, I think, the point that Abhay made, that robots or computer programs, artificial intelligence, really can start to simulate very effectively or even replace human beings. Now, what does this mean for the world of real estate? I always say to the analysts, let's start right at the beginning. Let's start with the overall conclusions. So this is really the only slide in my presentation that actually matters, and after this you can concentrate on the coffee. But let me just say in a few words what's happening to real estate in Asia right now. Reflecting firm global growth, occupier and investor property markets in Asia look very healthy right now. Artificial intelligence and automation we see as a long-run threat to demand for space. However, they should also support high-value human roles and help drive productivity. Investment capital, we think, will migrate towards established sources of human talent, in particular university cities. Activity-based working and the Internet of Things, which in many ways is an extension of artificial intelligence, will transform offices and building management. The office of the future will use space more efficiently, have more collaborative space, be healthier and greener, and feature more highly trained staff. And probably high rents and poor infrastructure pose a greater risk to property markets than automation. Let's just say what's happening right now in the third quarter of 2017, what is happening to Asian property markets. Global economic growth is robust. In China, Hong Kong, Singapore, probably India, we expect GDP growth to be stronger than most forecasters would have said 1 year ago, and we expect firm growth to boost office leasing demand, supporting capital values and countering the impact of rising supply. If you look at India, gross office take-up in the first half was about 19 million square feet. We expect steady demand in the second half of this year and beyond in the main cities to support demand for space driven by IT and financial services. Across Asia, higher trade flows and growth in e-commerce are driving industrial and logistics property, while in various markets, retail property is stabilizing. In the first half of this year, property investment markets were firm in the major Asian gateway cities, Hong Kong, Singapore, Shanghai, with activity spread across nearly all market segments. Net yields have fallen, spreads over bonds look very narrow. However, firm investment demand, driven in part by Chinese capital, suggests yields may fall even further in over the second half of the year. And just one additional point to highlight, the weakness of the US dollar so far this year reduces risk in Asia and is allowing low interest rates to persist, supporting property. We've had interest rate cuts in India and Indonesia very recently. So, it's a rosy picture. What could go wrong? In the near term, there's plenty that could go wrong. North Korea, Kim Jong-un could do something crazy at any time of the day. Don't forget the East and South China Seas, a potential flashpoint between China or Taiwan, the US or Vietnam. The US might be dragged in. In the medium term, what goes up must come down. That chart shows you the BSE equity index. It's been on a very nice upward path for the last 10 years. Will that go on? In the long run, artificial intelligence and automation. Will that mean we just don't need so much space anymore? So we've tried to ask which sectors and which roles might be affected by artificial intelligence first. The sectors: manufacturing, hospitality, real estate, doesn't sound so good for us, technology, agriculture, commercial banks, insurance. Which roles? Telemarketers, secretarial roles, simple roles, financial and accounting roles, real estate agents, paralegals, the sort of people who go through the results of past cases to look for precedents. This is a little study done by The Economist. The probability that robots will replace human jobs in 20 years. Telemarketers, 99%. Accountants and auditors, 94%. Bad luck for our finance team. Retail salespersons, 92%. Real estate agents, 86%. Are we all going to be obsolete pretty shortly? At the other end of the scale, dentists, under a 1% chance of replacement. Recreational therapists, under a 1% chance. But lest we start thinking that we're all about to disappear, some roles are much less vulnerable to automation. High value added and decision-making jobs. Roles requiring high interaction with human customers. Creative roles, app design, film and video making, high-end marketing. And running and programming the robots and the automated systems. Humans will do that. Now, I'm very glad that Abhay mentioned the example of drones. I was going to mention this as well, and this is actually based on some work from a gentleman called Gareth Barlow, who is our head of project management in the office in Hong Kong. He put together a very short paper, Thoughts about Real Estate Roles which might disappear. Drones will survey land and high-rise buildings in the future, no question about that. 3D printers will construct emergency shelters, perhaps even simple residential dwellings. This is already starting to happen in experiments. Virtual reality technology will allow prospective tenants or prospective purchasers of premises to inspect them remotely without ever actually setting foot there. However, humans will decide the zoning suitability of the land surveyed by the drones. Humans will design the dwellings constructed by the 3D printers and will adapt those designs for different cultures or human markets. And in the leasing example, humans will negotiate the final purchase or final leasing contracts. What artificial intelligence, I think, almost certainly will do is help drive productivity. The McKinsey Global Institute has done a widely quoted report on this subject. McKinsey concluded only 5% of candidates of jobs are candidates for full automation, 5% of occupations. However, within each occupation, up to 30% of roles could potentially be automated. Over the last 50 years, GDP growth has reflected population growth and increasing productivity. Looking forward, with population growth slowing in many markets, the focus must be on productivity gains. And I quote here on the right some examples of Indian outsourcing and BPO companies which believe that bots or robots can improve processing efficiency by 30 to 35%, but that doesn't necessarily mean a 30 to 35% replacement of full-time employees. A lot of the people can be retrained for other roles. What then are perhaps the general implications of artificial intelligence for property? I'll give some general ideas and then move on into some more specifics. Probably urbanization will accelerate as heavy manufacturing and agricultural jobs are replaced. Investment capital will migrate towards sources of human talent. Technology, media, creative industries will become key sources of demand for new space. This is no surprise in India, where the IT industry is the largest occupier of space, but it is a big new idea in some markets. In London, forever, financial services has been the biggest driver of growth. Over the past 5 years, it hasn't been the biggest driver of new growth. It's been the technology industry, with Google and Apple acquiring lots of office space, leasing lots of office space in London. Boundaries will blur between different segments of the property markets. There'll be an increasing shift towards mixed-use buildings. Offices and industrial units will probably become smaller. Demand for dynamically managed logistics warehouses will strengthen further, and the Internet of Things, that network of chips in phones, in computers, in your seat, in your car, will transform buildings and building management. And let's just give an illustration of that. Another video. I'm indebted to work by Colliers Europe for this, but here they recently did a study. This is our global workspace services team, but drawing on a video by Bloomberg about the Edge building in Amsterdam, occupied by Deloitte. It's probably the most advanced building in the world.
Welcome to the Edge. This is certifiably the greenest office building in the world. But that just might be the least interesting part about it, because the Edge in Amsterdam is also possibly the most connected office space in the world. Working at the Edge is insane. It all starts with a smartphone app developed by the building's main tenant, the consulting firm Deloitte. When you arrive at the Edge, a camera recognizes you by your license plate for automatic access. And because it's the Netherlands, there are chargers available for electric cars. Inside, things start to get interesting because you don't have a desk. No one here does. Workspaces are assigned to you based on your schedule for the day. You have options. A work booth, a meeting room, what they call a concentration room, a sitting desk, a standing desk, a balcony desk. You can even just hang out in the sun-filled atrium all day. This concept is called hot desking, and it's what allows Deloitte to have 2,500 workers, but less than half as many desks at its Dutch headquarters. The app knows your preferences, and when you arrive at your workspace, the lights dim or brighten based on your stored settings. And any of the building's massive flat screens can be instantly paired with an iPhone or a laptop. So what makes all this possible? The LED light panels developed by Philips specifically for the Edge are actually powered by low-voltage Ethernet cables, which means every light in the building becomes its own internet-connected data hub with 28,000 sensors that makes the building and its users smarter.
So let's stop it there and move forward. But thank you to Bloomberg and Deloitte, which we quoted in work by our global, by the European part of our global workspace solutions team, for this introduction to the connected building of the future. That's what Internet of Things means. Now, what are overall trends in office planning? In the 1970s, the office was very hierarchical. In the 1990s, everybody was talking about open plan. That's the sort of original Google idea. But the new trend now is activity-based workplace. How might that, what does that mean? The workforce is changing. Probably 40% of the staff in the average office will be mobile. Desk phones definitely on the way out. You can start to use space more efficiently. The average office has 30 to 40% space that no one uses. You have new generations, Generation X, Generation Z increasingly, which is or just starting. That's people born since after about 1998. And work that our workplace strategy teams have done shows quite clearly amenities are essential to retain this human talent. A lot of work gets done in open areas, cafe areas, what they call brainstorming areas, restroom or lounge areas. You may think of them as places where employees rest, but they're actually where a lot of ideas are exchanged and where a lot of work gets done. Let's just talk quickly about the technology sector, which is an area that will be very affected by artificial intelligence. Some colleagues in our occupiers team across Asia and I have interviewed in detail a number of technology companies, Western, Chinese, Indian, multinational technology companies. We asked them, what's your number one priority? Or number one challenge? They said, it's acquisition of talent. And we asked, what do you see as the biggest source of talent? I was rather surprised by this. The number one answer was Beijing and North China. Shanghai and East China coming second, Bangalore coming third as an individual center. I'd expected it would have been an Indian city, but the answer that came up was Chinese. Some insights from the technology sector. Nearly 51% of all work happens in the focus and individual workspaces. 45% of tech workers are now Generation Y or Millennial. Usable square feet per employee, based on estimates by our team in Singapore, will drop from 161 to 146 over the next 3 years. It's already down to 90 in India. Agile collaboration. You need to be able to design offices to cope with teams of different sizes. What does this mean for offices? Activity-based workplaces use space more efficiently. This suggests office size will shrink. Much more space will be devoted to shared and collaborative uses. Wellness strategies and the Internet of Things will make the office greener and healthier. Staff will be better trained, have specialist skills, and be more mobile, both within and outside work. We're just going to finish with 3 slides very quickly on India. My colleague Surbi will.
Mentioned by Andrew in the beginning that definitely the commercial market is doing well, and in first half of 2017 we witnessed around 19 million square feet of office leasing, and the number of RFPs are floating in the market. We believe that at least in the short term there is no threat for the commercial market, and that's probably good for all of us, because if you are using the more space, that means your business is going to be growing. Now there is some data on different cities. It's the rental chart for all the cities. If you see especially the South Indian cities, the rental is increasing, and it is going to increase for over next 3 years. That's our forecast. That's happening in all of the market. And probably if you see the more mature market like NCR and Mumbai, probably the rentals have stabilized. But, and probably it seems like a good news for NCR occupiers. But I would like to add something here, that definitely the average rents we are forecasting will be stable, but at the same time, the grade A building, the building in which you want to be, and the building which are well located, they are going to command a premium. And that's happening in the market. If I give a small example, there are buildings on, for example, Golf Course Road, which are actually commanding around 70 to 80% premium above the market rent. So that's happening, and that's going to happen. With the AI coming into the picture, I think definitely you will be looking for the buildings which are more equipped for technology, and probably you have to pay more rent for that. So that's a more immediate threat for most of the occupiers. Another threat in especially the Indian market is infrastructure. And you know, everybody would agree that to commute to office every morning, we usually take 1 to 2 hours. And probably I am little uh, uh, you know, not exaggerating, but a lot of people are taking more than 2 hours in the morning to reach to office. And what it is doing to us, it is leading to economic loss and probably the productivity in each of the company. We did a little case study. I hope that everybody know ORR, and it's around 7-kilometer stretch, which is the most preferred occupier market. And there are some 7 pain points we identified on that road, and we tried to calculate that if every person who is passing in the morning through this stretch wait at least 3 minutes on a red light, which is not too much, then probably every day we are losing around 31 crore rupees. Okay, so this is actually leading to a lot of productivity, and then it is a major threat for us, at least in the short term. Now, Government of India is planning to spend a lot of money on infrastructure, and we are definitely seeing an improvement. But I am afraid to say that even this will likely only help bridge the infrastructure deficit. So probably we are not ready for the future. And that's where the co-working spaces are probably becoming more and more popular in Indian market, because transportation is an issue. Another threat which we are looking in the poor infrastructure is the legacy IT system also could be a major drag on automation, and we are not that much prepared for automation in Indian market. So a lot of business may go to other countries. Can we go to the next slide? And we have drawn some conclusion about the impact of AI on Indian real estate market. So definitely the impact of AI will be felt, but probably over the next decade. Routine roles such as simple call center operators will be replaced first by AI. Another thing is, which is actually started happening in the market. A lot of startups are coming. A lot of companies have less visibility over the future headcount needs. So the demand for flexible working space is going to increase. And in our recent report, we predict that the co-working space will be around 8-9 million by 2020. What it is leading to, that the ideal office space will be smaller, more efficient, more dynamic and greener, and there will be a lot of collaborative spaces within the offices. Another thing which is happening in the market is not only the AI, it is more probably because of the new rules and regulation like GST. So industrial property is cropping up as a new category in the Indian real estate market. Definitely, the companies will need to invest substantially in increasing the skills of their workforce, and developers have also probably think that they have to build buildings which are suitable for robots as well, not only the human being. So a fresh business approach and the proactive planning, I think, will play a key role in success. So that's from me. Thank you.